Welcome to the NHL Ice Guys. It's Tuesday, October 17th, 2017. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, and I am back in the saddle in the host's chair. Thank you to Dana Lane for hosting for me on Saturday, filling in a tight spot in a pinch. Did a great job. And we as a group, guys, did a great job because I believe we had a 4-0 best bet sweep. We're now 13-3 on the season with best bets on the NHL Ice Guys show. It's been really a tremendous run with those. We'll see if we can keep this going on what is a fantastic, in my opinion, Tuesday NHL card. Let's go around the horn, see how my Ice Guys are doing on this Tuesday morning. Alex B. Smith, how are you today?
Doing fantastic, and like I said, this is a great Tuesday card, and coming off the good show we had on Saturday, and just a great weekend overall of action. So, hoping we can keep this whole thing rolling.
Absolutely. That's definitely the goal. Andrew McInnis, what are you saying on this Tuesday morning? Looking forward to the slate tonight.
Yeah, doing great, Ian. Good to have you back. And yeah, I'll just agree with Alex here. It's pretty awesome to see the success we're all having, and it's worth getting up early for all of us to just come on here and talk some hockey. So I look forward to it.
All right, and Dana Lane, the early bird of the group here at 6 a.m. local time, coming on and with the Ice Guys doing this show every morning. I have no idea how he does it as a guy that really, for years and years, has enjoyed sleeping in most days. But Dana here at 6 a.m., I give him all the credit in the world for doing it, and we bring him in because we love hearing his hockey analysis. I sure do. Dana, how are you this morning?
I'm doing awesome. I'm ready to go on about 3.5 hours sleep. And, I look at the card on Tuesday and Thursdays and Saturdays when we do the show, and I'm like, crossing my fingers for 7 or 8 games. But, the NHL always delivers me 11 games. And so that enables me to get about 3.5 hours sleep.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Dane, I want to clarify something because I get questions. Why aren't you guys on 7 days a week? We'd love to be on 7 days a week, but in terms of feasibility, when we look at the NHL slates, if you follow hockey closely, you know what the 3 big days per week are in terms of a loaded schedule. You've got your Tuesday schedule, your Thursday schedule, and your Saturday schedule. You've got just a absolute ton of games those 3 days. And Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, you'll often see just 1, 2, 3, 4 games maximum. Look at tomorrow. You've got, just 3 games. Yesterday, you had just the 1 game, Tampa, Detroit. So it's one of those situations where it just made more sense to do 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, loaded card, lots of games to discuss, can make a nice extensive show out of it. So that's why we're going 3 days a week. We are considering maybe a playoff expansion once the playoffs roll around to do it every day because everybody, playoffs are big time of year, but that's way down the road. We're talking, April 2018. We've got a long, and I mean long, regular season to get through first before we get there. All right, guys, we got the card. It's a big one. As always on a Tuesday, we're going to start right at the top, 51-52 on the rotation. Pittsburgh, New York Rangers. We've got Pittsburgh. It's 115 road favorite right about now. A total of 6, shaded a little bit towards the under in this hockey game. And you've got 2 teams that, I don't want to say going in opposite directions, but in the Rangers' case, they're certainly trending in a downward direction. It's been a rough go for them, 1-5 on the season. Scoring goals has been a little bit of an issue for them in recent games. You've got Alain Vigneault shaking up his lines. I know Dana says he doesn't like it when teams are shaking up their lines like that. That's not something that he's liking. In terms of, when teams are struggling, they're just trying to do whatever they can to get some cohesion, get some chemistry, get some confidence back. Seems like what Alain Vigneault is doing, especially with his top line. He's making some changes there and basically doing a reshuffling here, taking on this Pittsburgh Penguins team. Look, the Rangers are struggling, and I understand, Pittsburgh's opened up here as a slight road favorite, but I've definitely got issues with this Rangers team. And usually when it's a team on a losing streak, I ride the streak till it's over, or a winning streak. I ride the streak till it's over. I don't try to stand in front of the streak. That's probably what I'm going to do here. And in fact, I did indeed bet the Pittsburgh Penguins here as a small road chalk in this hockey game. I mean, I think the New York Rangers situation is not very good. I didn't like this team coming into the season, viewed them as a bet against squad, and they've lived up to that early thought process of mine so far in the first couple weeks of the season. Just a team that I think in terms of their scoring depth, clearly in the last few games we've seen it hasn't been there. Henrik Lundqvist to me has been very spotty in between the pipes. Their defense, still a little bit of a question mark. Can't think of defensemen who have started their careers with such promise and really just not really developed into that big-time defenseman. And I'm thinking of Mark Stahl when I say that for the New York Rangers. It's been very, very spotty, his play on that back end for the Rangers. So I'm looking at Pittsburgh here as the small road favorite in this game. And from a betting perspective, we've got Alex also interested in the Penguin Rangers game. Alex, what's your take on this big-time matchup here?
Well, yeah, you touched on everything, Ian, with as far as the breakdown with the New York Rangers. I had this team trending down as well. I bet the under in the season point totals. I did not expect that they would lose 5 of their first 6 games and be dead last in that Metro division. I thought they would be at least a little bit competitive early on, but now you got to wonder, where the hell is everything going for the Rangers right now? McInnis and Alex B, the only offensive option they have. He's got 5 goals now. Everybody else has just been completely quiet. Henrik Lundqvist is looking older by the period. This team's in serious trouble now, and you got to wonder if they're just going to start breaking this team apart and selling off pieces by the deadline or even earlier than that. And then you look at Pittsburgh. They started off a little sluggish, obviously losing the first 2 games. They've won 3 of their last 4, and obviously as a team, the 2 teams are very familiar with each other in the playoffs. Pittsburgh has gotten the best of the Rangers in most of those meetings. So I'm looking at Pittsburgh here. I already jumped on them as well. And that price, I think, is only going to go up. I thought they would open more like a $1.25, $1.30 favorite. So I think there's real good value with the Penguins tonight.
Yeah, and you look at it from a Rangers perspective here in terms of what they're doing. The reconfigured number 1 line for the Rangers practice yesterday, Mika Zibanejad centering a line with Matt Zuccarello and Rick Nash. So clearly you see what Alain Vigneault is trying to do. He's trying to load up a top line to at least get this offense jump started, which, the last few games, it's not been pretty for the New York Rangers. And we've talked about a Penguins team, I believe 10-3 in the last 13 meetings head-to-head against the Rangers. So they've had a tough time of it. They've been held to 4 goals in their last 3 games combined, the New York Rangers, so not very good at all in terms of their ability to put the puck in the net. So looking to get that jump start, Alain Vigneault hoping a big-time loaded-up top line will get them going. I'm not convinced. I'm going to have to see it before I believe it. I'm with Alex on this one with Pittsburgh as the small road chalk in this game. We've got Florida taking on Philadelphia next up, rotation 53-54. -130, home favorite in that range, total of 5.5, over sitting at about -120 in this game. And this is the game I'm involved in. Look, Florida Panthers have found their way to scoring goals early on in this campaign. I mean, give this team credit. They have had no problem putting the puck in the net. Perfect 4-0 to the over so far this season. I've been impressed with what I've seen from the Flyers as well. On the offensive end of the ice. The only issue is Brian Elliott, is sort of that feast or famine kind of goalie for this Flyers team. When he's good, he's really good. But when he's not so good, he has games like he had against Nashville where Flyers have the lead for an extended stretches of that game, can't hold it. Nashville comes back and wins. That's what you're going to get sometimes. In between the pipes, and still defensively, I don't think this is a shutdown group for the Flyers by any stretch, but I've been impressed. Wayne Simmons has gotten out of the gate strong offensively for the Philadelphia Flyers, and they're getting some pretty good contributions really throughout their lineup in terms of putting the puck in the net for this team. Claude Giroux's had a better start. We know Claude Giroux sometimes has gone a little bit streaky. Jake Voracek, Couturier as well, all helping this Flyer team offensively so far this season. They've gone over the total in 2 straight, and that's exactly what I'm looking at in this game. I'm going to go with the over 5.5 at -120. Florida Panthers, Philadelphia Flyers. Florida, again, gone over the total in every single game. They've been able to score goals. They've also given them up at times as well. So I think you've got a game where you've got 2 teams that are confident offensively right now, in good form, going to be able to score goals. We'll go over 5.5 in that game between the Panthers and Flyers tonight on NHL Ice. Moving on down, we've got Toronto, Washington, 55-56. Big game on the card tonight, -140. Home favorite, even -145 showing in some spots. Total is 6, shaded to the over, but it's showing signs it's moving to 6.5. We've got bookmaker / Chris now at 6.5. We've got Heritage now up to 6.5. 5 Dimes, Jazz, some Vegas shops have 6 heavily shaded to the over in the -130 range. So make sure you shop around. Important to have multiple sports books, multiple accounts, so that you get the best of the number at all times. This is a full house here in this game, Toronto, Washington, except for Andrew. Andrew's not involved in this game, but I am, Dana is, and Alex is. Let's get Dana's thoughts on this Leaf Capital matchup from a betting perspective. Dana, what are you looking at here?
Well, I don't love where they're at, where the number's at right now, because obviously it's gone up a little bit from the opening number, but I do see the higher percentage of the bets being put in on Toronto, so perhaps that number will go down, and you might want to wait until game time to try to get the best of that number. But still, even if it sits at $1.37, that doesn't scare me off of this. And, probably it looks very easy to most people. I mean, you got a team like the Washington Capitals that just allowed 8 goals against a team that scores a ton of goals, and that to me it kind of forces me to go the other way. I mean, if any team should be motivated between the two, which is kind of the first thing that I look for, is which team has the motivation. It has to be the Washington Capitals, because if you just gave up 8 goals to the Philadelphia Flyers, to me you're looking towards your next game pretty quick to try to rectify that problem. Against the Metropolitan Division, Toronto still has to prove to me, in a division that's a complete gauntlet, they have to prove to me that they can go through those teams and have success against those teams. They've dropped 4 or 5 against teams from the Metro, and Washington usually is a pretty good bounce back team. In fact, they're 66-29 over the last couple seasons when scoring 2 goals or less in their previous games. And the Leafs have just not had a lot of success in Washington. In fact, they've dropped 19 of the last 26 visits to Washington. And I know that goes over a couple seasons, and I know that the players last season doesn't equate to what they have this year or even 2 seasons ago. But sometimes you start to develop a culture as you move on. And 7-19 over 26 certainly tells me that Toronto has not had a ton of success, and then they're not comfortable going into Washington. So you have again, it looks easy when you have the league's top offensive team going to get up against the Caps, but the truth is that the Leafs this year have had a ton of power play opportunities, and I think if the Capitals keep that to a minimum, I think they should not only win this game, but I think they should win this game pretty easy. I look for a less sloppy effort. They were real sloppy against Philadelphia, or against Philly. So I look for a less sloppy effort out of Washington, and I think Ovechkin is certainly going to be a factor. And we talked about this before, guys, all season long. The Capitals were talked about as a team that may not make the playoffs, that would barely make the playoffs. Alexander Ovechkin was getting old. He was a non-factor anymore. And these guys sat around all year and listened to not only this talk, but they also listened to how great the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to be, and basically handing the Stanley Cup to Babcock. And that's not the Leafs' fault. That was the media's fault. But I think that's kind of, if I'm the Capitals and I'm inside that locker room, I think that kind of gets my blood boiling a little bit. And I think they're the more motivated of the two. So I have no problem laying the price with the Capitals tonight.
All right. So Dana says Washington Capitals for him. Laying the home chalk here in this one. Alex is on this game as well. Alex, what are you looking at for Leafs Capitals? Big game tonight. Looking forward to it.
It's a huge game, but I got to give Dana the bar-to-bar phrase of not so fast, my friend, with this one. I like the Maple Leafs here tonight. And looking back at Saturday's game, they ended the streak of 14 consecutive losses against Montreal, their rival. And the biggest thing I was saying is this is a team, like you said, the media's hyped them up. The fan base is really rallying, believing that this is the year that they can make a step up in class. And I think that win has given them some momentum. Now they get to play the team that knocked them out of the postseason last year, a Capitals team that is struggling and trying to find their way early on in the year. I was stunned to see this price, especially the fact that the Capitals coming off such a poor effort the other night. They will tighten things down for sure defensively. I don't expect them to allow 8 goals again for quite some time, but even tighten things down, they still have some issues here. And I think this Toronto team is just flying on offense. Mitch Marner being moved down to the 4th line. I know some fans are freaking out about that. I think that's a really good move. I think pairing him with Matt Martin, I think that creates a little bit more of an offensive element down that more balance within all 4 lines. I think he'll find a way to wake up and get his scoring streak together. So I really like Toronto in this spot at plus money. This is a game that I played pretty much right on the open. So I think the Maple Leafs keep their momentum going and keep the winning ways going right now.
You know what? I'm just going back to and my side and total. I'm involved in both in this game. I'm just going what's been working. Toronto at the plus price. I'm going with that and the over in this game. I'm until it stops cashing. Like, I understand the argument that both teams might bring it defensively, especially Washington, but I'm in a situation, and I'm this kind of better when I start repeatedly winning with certain teams and certain totals and whatever the case may be. And I've already collected 2-3 units on Toronto and or the over in recent games, the Chicago game, the New Jersey game, again on Saturday, the Montreal game. I had Leafs and over in that game. Both of them cashed in. It's just something where, eventually the worm may turn. I understand that. You're going to get an under eventually. Toronto's not going 82-0 to the over this season. I get that. Totally get that. But it's just one of those situations where, as a bettor, I start riding things that have been working for me, and I just keep riding until I fall off the bike. So, you keep riding the bike, then you fall off, then you might put the bike away. That's my strategy here. So for me, a Leafs plus price, and it is, I hate using that term playoff revenge. To me, the thing that concerns me here is the Washington spanking that they took against Philadelphia. I would have liked the Leafs a lot more had, Washington played a better game on the weekend against the Flyers, but that's not going to sit well with Barry Trotz, and that's not going to sit well with the Capitals. The concern I have with the Capitals is the Matt Niskanen injury. Big-time injury for them on that blue line. And Toronto, as Alex said, they're loaded with depth offensively. So now you're going to be putting guys in the position where the Taylor Chorneys and Christian Hughes, who's just a very young defenseman on this Washington team, you're going to have to play some bigger minutes now. You're going to have to step up and start to shut down some of these better Leaf players tonight. That's going to be a challenge in my mind. You're going to have to really rely on John Carlson. You're going to have to really rely on Brooks Orpik, Dmitry Orlov. Those are the guys that are really going to have to step up for the Washington Capitals with Matty Niskanen out of there, who I think is an underrated defenseman on this Capitals team. So I think it's going to be a challenge here for Washington. And again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's my thought process. I'm going Toronto, about plus 125. And I like the over a little bit more. I actually personally put more money of my own money on the over in this game at 6. I got about minus 115, I think it was. It's moved a little bit. You can see why Toronto's just been an over machine. So Leafs in the over for me in that one. We've got no line with Tampa, New Jersey, rotation 57-58. Tampa playing the second night of back-to-backs. They were in Detroit last night, won that hockey game by a score of 3-2. I would say there's probably a decent chance you get Peter Budaj in net for the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight as they take on the New Jersey Devils team. Tampa, I believe, has played one previous back-to-back this season, and they lost that game. It was against Florida, I believe, way back early on in the season. It was the second night of back-to-back games. They did not win that one. So, be careful with Tampa in that game. We'll see where that line opens up, but not a game probably I'm going to be involved with. Again, New Jersey's been off to a solid start. Look out for the Devils. I mean, this is a team that, may be able to take advantage here of Tampa in this spot, but good gauge for me to see how far this Devils team has come, because the one thing you can say about New Jersey is, at times their schedule so far has been a little light. Now they're playing a very good Tampa team. Let's see how they do here tonight. But there's a lot to like about the Devils just in terms of their four lines speed throughout their lineup. Much better than it's been in years past, and that was often an issue with them. So that'll be an interesting game to watch. We'll see what we get for lines when it comes out. Next game, all Canadian matchup, 59-60, Vancouver, Ottawa. We've got Ottawa minus 180 to minus 185, total 5.5 shaded to minus 120, minus 125 in this particular game. We've got Andrew on this game. We've got Alex on this game. So let's start with Andrew. Andrew's been, yeah, right. Andrew, we haven't heard from him here in this show so far. Now we're finally going to get his opinion. He's involved with the Canucks Senators all Canadian matchup. Andrew, what are you looking at here in the nation's capital?
Look, guys, well, I've been really impressed with Ottawa so far to start this season off. They've kind of changed their identity a bit. In my opinion, they used to be that team, the Guy Boucher kind of mindset, staying back, clogging the neutral zone up and trying to win those 2-1 games. But, they played 5 games. They have 20 goals. Vancouver's played 4 games. They have 9 goals in the season. I think this total actually goes over, and I think Ottawa wins by more than 1 goal. I've been impressed with them. They put up 6 goals against Edmonton. They put up 6 goals against Calgary. And, like you said, the same thing about Toronto. I know they're not going to put up 6 goals every single game, guys, but I do think they're a strong team. I think that Vancouver is going down, and then they haven't really gone up in a while. I think the Sedins are getting older. I think they're going to end their careers there. Vancouver is just kind of one of those teams that has half their team is just a little bit older, and they want to slow things down. Half their team has the youth. They're trying to bring them up. But with the depth that Ottawa has, Mike Hoffman, Burrows right now, Pajot, Brassard, the list goes on, Kyle Turris. I just think that, I mentioned what my thoughts on Ottawa a couple weeks ago with our show, and it might have been misinterpreted. I didn't mean to say that they don't have any all-stars, but what I meant to say is that they just have kind of the depth of a bunch of good players, Bobby Ryan, I'm not sure about you guys, but I wouldn't really describe him as an all-star. Is he a good player to have on your team? I'd say so. And, same with Jean-Gabriel Pageau. I had the privilege to see him in person. Very underrated. He's a player. He's from the Ottawa area, and I think he belongs there, but I would never call him an all-star. But Ottawa has all these players that just spiral in and kind of make them one unit. So which is why I'm on the Senators minus 1.5 today, and I'm on the over in this Vancouver versus Ottawa game at 5.5.
Yeah, the big news, of course, is Erik Karlsson also coming back for the Ottawa Senators. I'm sure that gets everyone on this Senators team excited that he's making his season debut tonight. Guy Boucher confirming at practice yesterday that he would be in there and be playing in this hockey game. So going to be very interesting to see how that ends up going. The problem for the Canucks is Travis Green's going to instill a work ethic with this team. We've already seen it. They're going to work hard in games. They're going to battle. But they're just outmanned from a talent perspective, from a personnel standpoint, from a depth perspective. And their injuries are already starting to become a little bit of an issue for Vancouver. Brandon Sutter's questionable. Louis Eriksson's out with a knee injury until at least a couple of weeks. Alexander Edler, key defenseman on this Canuck blue line, experienced, pretty solid at the back end. He's out now to late November with a lower body injury. So there's really all kinds of issues right now already mounting for Vancouver from an injury perspective. That's a concern for me moving forward. And for a team that can't really afford injuries, the depth's just not there. Alex, what do you think about this game?
This is a game, and it's something that is part of my handicapping theory with hockey. I don't have a play on this game, but I have a huge circle drawn on this game with Vancouver, looking at the fact that they're starting a 5-game road trip. They played Ottawa. Ottawa outshot them 42-28. But they only won 3-2 in that meeting a couple weeks ago. I was on Ottawa in that game. Vancouver, if they want to get some form of victories going right now, it would have to start with these next 3 games. You look at here tonight against Ottawa, and then on Thursday, they play a Boston team that's coming back home from a long trip out west. The next night, they're playing a Buffalo team that's coming back from a long trip out west. So if they're going to find a way to get some kind of victories going, it's got to be within this 3-game stretch. I think it's a really important stretch for them. But, like I said, they're up against it with injuries as well. So it's a game. I'm not playing it, but I'm definitely watching it to see if Vancouver will have some life here on the road in the next 3 games.
Yeah, that's a good point. There you go. See, that's great. That's the thing, too. Anybody wants to chime in with an opinion, even if they don't have a bet on a game, want to talk about the game, mention something specifically that they're looking for, like Alex just did for a future game or a future spot that maybe you can use to bet on and profit from, by all means. That's a good point on that game. Vancouver, this is going to be a good test for this Vancouver team. With the injuries starting to mount, what can they do now on this road trip? Isn't it kind of weird that Vancouver and Ottawa are playing each other already for the second time? I mean, East versus West rematch, and they just played last week in Vancouver. That was a 3-2 shootout win for the Ottawa Senators. I believe that treated everyone here on the show pretty well. I think we all had Ottawa or under in that game in some form. It ended up working out quite well. But Andrew, you got one more point on Ottawa. What did you want to bring up?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, yeah, I'm happy you were able to remember that for me. I didn't bring up the whole Karlsson thing, which is kind of obviously a faulty thing I should have remembered. But just one quick thing about Karlsson is that he's not just that go-to defenseman. He's been described by Guy Boucher as one of the best playmakers really in the league. And I think that if they've been putting up these goals, they put up 6 goals against Edmonton and Calgary without Karlsson being even in the lineup, Ian. I think this just goes to show how exciting this Ottawa team actually can be this year. And I think it kind of proves a point to us that maybe they are a team to watch. And I have been saying this since the summer, that this Atlantic division is going to be one of the tightest divisions all year, guys. It's going to be a tight race. And, Karlsson coming back is going to be electric. The way he carries the puck up the neutral zone, the way he can, this guy is one of those dump and chase kind of defensemen. He likes to control the puck himself and make plays. So I expect a big night out of the Senators tonight.
Yeah, this is a good spot for Ottawa. It's still a team I'm not crazy about laying the big price with, but yeah, puck line, definitely a much more value-laden option if you're looking to get at Ottawa or Ottawa team total as well. Something to look at. Again, those derivative markets, if you don't want to lay a big monster money line price on a favorite, look at other ways to maybe get toward your side, and team total, puck line, those kind of things. Those are often good methods. Colorado, Nashville, 61-62. We've got Nashville, big favorite, minus 200, total 5.5. I don't know what to make of this Colorado team. I still don't think they're all that great. I don't think they're the bee's knees by any stretch of the imagination, even though they're 4-2 so far see what they can do now on the road where they're 2-2 this season. Go to Nashville to take on the Predators, who are coming off a 2-1 overtime loss in Chicago on Saturday night. A Nashville team that really hasn't gotten things totally clicking and firing on all cylinders just yet. 2-1 so far this season. They've had to deal with a ton of injuries. Ryan Ellis on the blue line. Roman Yossi's battling a lower body injury. Nick Bonino as well. Yossi's missed the last 3 games. Nick Bonino, will he be able to be on the ice tonight for Colorado? He's questionable right now. So again, some injury concerns here for Nashville. I think they're laying too much of a price, but I'm not going to take Colorado either. I don't trust this team still. If Semyon Varlamov is even somewhat off his game, this team's probably going to have some difficulties this season. They've been outshot in quite a few games. They've given up a lot of shots as well so far this season, Colorado. So it's definitely a game I'm going to be staying away from in this game, and I see no one else has anything on this one. Columbus, Winnipeg, 63-64. Winnipeg minus 110, even money in around that range. Total of 6 minus 120, pretty much across the board here in this one. Let's get to Alex. He's involved on this Columbus-Winnipeg game. Alex, what are you looking at here? Alex, you're muted. You're muted, Alex. There you go.
There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, I like Columbus in this spot here tonight. I think this Columbus team finally getting things gelled together. Like I said, a lot of new pieces, new faces, but they're starting to move things around now. And they're looking like a really solid team up front. Forward wise, this Winnipeg team, I'm still kind of a little iffy about. They've got some injury issues now. Adam Lowry is out. Matthew Perreault was hurt in the last game. They said he could be out for 4 weeks. I think that's going to be a huge blow for them offensively. And then even though they've come and won 3 games, both teams coming in on 3-game winning streaks right now. But I think Columbus is the better team. You look at Steve Mason in net for the Jets tonight. He has a 4-4-4 record against Columbus lifetime. So if you look at wins and losses, that's 4-8. And I think Columbus will find a way to get after him. And I think there's some good value here with the Blue Jackets.
There we go, Blue Jackets, even money. Yeah, Winnipeg's one of those very, very flaky teams for me. When they're on their game and they're defending and they're not taking stupid penalties, which has been an MO of this team since Paul Maurice has been there. Their penalties they take sometimes just leave you just shaking your head saying, what the fuck are you guys doing? You're just taking these cross-checking penalties that are so obvious, flapping your gums, buffling sometimes to the referee. He's been guilty of that. It gets unsportsmanlike for that. It's just Paul Maurice has been given so much time to rein this stuff in and this undisciplined play at times with the Jets, and it still seems to burn them. To me, if the Jets are buying in defensively, they're staying out of the penalty box. This has a capability of being a solid team. I don't know about a great team, but at least a solid team, a competitive team that can win games, but you just don't see it enough. The goaltending usually is a little bit shaky, whether it's Hellebuck, whether it's Mason. So it's a very tough team for me to bet on oftentimes. Usually, honestly, toward the end of last season, it got to the point where this Jets team is so manic. They've had success, I know, against Alex's Blackhawks for some reason in years past. I can never figure out why, but they've done so well against Chicago, yet they'll lose at home to, teams that they really shouldn't, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So it's a tough team for me. It's just personally, you always have those teams that give you grief. You have a tough read on. Winnipeg is that team from a side perspective for me. But I have no argument with Columbus. I mean, Columbus, to me, playing solid enough hockey. And you probably have to give goalie Bob the edge in net over whoever Winnipeg ends up putting in there tonight. We got Arizona taking on Dallas. Rotation 65-66. No line yet on this game, although the Greek is hanging a Dallas minus 160, Arizona plus 140. Of course, the big news here is Antti Ranta's injury. That right away tells me I don't want Arizona. All right, Louis Domingue's been horrible this season. It's been absolutely awful. That goal he gave up to Zetterberg in that Detroit game, which hurt me a little bit because I was on Arizona that night. It's a puck that's got to be stopped at the NHL level, period, end of story. That's all there is to it. It was not. He's not a goalie I want any sort of my financial portfolio locked in on right now. That's the bottom line. So as long as Domingue, I see him as a probable starting goalie, and you're obviously going to see him tonight because Antti Ranta's out. I don't want the Arizona side. This is Dallas, or this is a good maybe Dallas team total spot at home here. Team total to go over makes a little bit of sense. That would be my lean in this game if I had to bet it. I don't want to lay minus 160. I still think defensively Dallas is getting a little bit more used to this Ken Hitchcock system, digging in, playing both ends of the ice, 2 ways, being responsible, being good players when you don't have the puck. That's what Ken Hitchcock preaches. That's always what he's been about. And I think Dallas is still trying to tweak that system, get comfortable running it, and just buying in a lot more at the defensive end. So I don't trust them yet defensively laying this kind of price. So I think Dallas team total over when I see team totals for this game. That'll be the way I look, because I don't trust Domingue to stop a beach ball right now, let alone a puck from some of these talented Dallas Stars forwards up front. We've got Carolina, Edmonton, 67-68. We've got Edmonton minus 140 home chalk in this game. Total sitting at 5.5. Pretty much minus 110 across the board. And, we got to call it like we see it. I mean, the Edmonton Oilers start has been massively disappointing. 1-3 so far. You already see Todd McClellan in press conferences voicing very obvious frustration, very obvious displeasure with his hockey team. For a team loaded with expectations that they're going to win the Pacific Division, that they could win the West, that they could win a Stanley Cup. This has definitely been a little bit of a troubling first 4 games for the Edmonton Oilers. And now, making matters worse, you're going to be without Leon Draisaitl for a little bit of time. That's not good. He's out with a concussion. You're already without Andrej Sekera, and I think people are not factoring in that Andrej Sekera injury enough, because I think this team's a little bit weaker and worse. They are worse without him on the back end. They need Sekera back in the worst way. He's still not returning anytime soon. Now you've got Leon Draisaitl out with that injury. So this is going to be a good challenge. Young team still for the most part, this Edmonton team. Good challenge for them early on in the campaign. How are they going to handle this adversity? The fact that defensively you've not played all that great, and I do have concerns about Cam Talbot. I said it coming into the season that this is a guy that played by far the most games he's played in a single season. Not even close. What did he play? Over 70 games in the regular season last year. And Cam Talbot's coming from a situation in New York where he's starting maybe 8 to 10 times a year. That's about it. I mean, in terms of a workload increase, it's huge, massive, huge jump in terms of number of games played. And he looks like it a little bit, just slow in reacting to pucks, not getting post to post quick enough. Rebound control at times has been a little from Cam Talbot. So there's issues here for Edmonton. Carolina, to me, is another tough team to figure out. I think there's good in this hockey team. I think they're improving. I like Lindholm. I like Victor Rask. I like a lot of these young players on this Hurricanes team, but they're still maddeningly inconsistent. That's the issue. They started the season with a shootout win against Minnesota, followed that up with 2 losses against Winnipeg and Columbus in back-to-back games. They'll see if they can continue this road trip here and get back on the win column. But the good news for Carolina is they've outshot every opponent. 42-27 against Minnesota, 38-27 against Columbus, 29-21 against Winnipeg. Defensively, they've done pretty good for Bill Peters. And eventually you've got to think that that winning the shots battle, game in, game out, keeping things in check, when you're only giving up the last 3 games, 27, 27, 21 shots, you're doing pretty good, especially in this new era of NHL with the increase in penalties that we've seen early in the season. Carolina's doing something well to hold teams in the 20s in shots on goal. That might pay off. I don't know if I'll bet it, but I've certainly got to lean to Carolina. I don't like what I'm seeing here for Edmonton, and I got a plus price here with the Hurricanes in this particular game. We've got everybody. We've got Dana and Andrew involved on this game, Carolina and Edmonton. Let's go to Andrew. Your thoughts on the Canes and the Oilers here tonight in Edmonton?
Yeah, to me, guys, I think that this is like the picture-perfect spot here where I'm liking Edmonton. I just think that they've, look back all the way to last season. They've had those high expectations coming into the playoffs. Everyone's all over them. Now we fast forward a little bit heading into this season. Everyone's, high on them to win the cup, high on how McDavid can get even better, how this team can improve even more. I think they've had a rough start, that's for sure. And I think, one wrong move I think Todd McClellan did, and I think a lot of the media has kind of agreed with this, is that, he's called out his team publicly. And that's not something you should do as a coach, especially this early in the year. He's called out his team. He said, look, you're playing like absolute shit. You're not performing. Our top guys aren't performing. Not only the whole entire cast, not only the whole crew, just strictly the top guys aren't performing. And I think this is the night, guys, where the Edmonton Oilers come out against the Carolina Hurricanes team, which, Ian, you mentioned it, is pretty inconsistent. They're one of those teams right now where if I was to looking to take them, it's going to be, when they're getting plus money, but not against this Edmonton team right now. I think this is the spot where Edmonton wakes up at home and jumps all over this Carolina Hurricanes team. I'm on them on the puck line at plus 200. I think this is the game, guys, where you kind of wake up the beasts. I do think they're overhyped coming into this season. But I think we're going to discover tonight that the Oilers have a little bit more depth than everybody thinks that they do, and the inexperience and the youth of the Hurricanes are really going to come out. So I really don't think it's right for coaches to call out their players, especially McDavid, someone that's your best player, your go-to guy, your Hart Trophy winner, your MVP. So, tonight's going to be the night where the beasts are awakened, and I think this game should have lots of goals. I would look to either bet a team total on Edmonton or to take Edmonton on the puck line.
Yeah, you know what? I think Todd McClellan did this last year as well with this Edmonton team, where he called them out after a stink bomb of a game, and they did respond, I think, pretty well. And I remember it was, I think, a game 2 where Benoit Pouliot took not 1, not 2, but 3 bad penalties in the same game, and he just let the guy have it. Todd McClellan. I mean, he was just pissed off beyond belief that Benoit Pouliot was doing that, with that undisciplined play that ended up costing Edmonton in a big way. It's an interesting handicap here in this game because you've got, an Edmonton team that's, 3 losses in a row. I mean, getting stomped by Ottawa 6-1 the other night, not good at all whatsoever. An Ottawa team, too, that was a little not jet lag, but a little road weary. They'd been on the road for a bit. And still to lose that game at home the way they did, very concerning. But after Todd McClellan obviously lets his team have it after that game, is this going to be that circle the wagon spot? I will say this for Edmonton defensively and for Talbot, who's had a little rough go, although he hasn't gotten a lot of help so far. Carolina's struggling to put the puck in the net. So if this team is finally going to dig in defensively, get back on track, have a convincing showing, it's going to be tonight, because Carolina offensively last few games just haven't been able to generate much at all. We've got Dana involved in this game as well. Carolina taking on Edmonton. Dana, what are you looking at in this one?
Well, I can tell you this, now that I know we can swear in this show, my analysis will be much better. But for me, when you look at both of these teams, they're both averaging at least 36 shots a game, and that leads me to go over to the over on this, because, and especially at even money, I know that both of these teams are going to make each other's goaltenders very active during the course of the game. And it's just a matter of, sometimes, like the last 2 years, the team that has won the Stanley Cup has led the National Hockey League in shots on goal. Are they quality shots on goal? That's what you have to decipher. I think Edmonton and Carolina has had enough quality opportunities to allow me to go on the over. And with the penalty with the injury situation, you have, again, guys out of place. You have Yamamoto is playing on that first line. You have guys that are going to have that next man up mentality. Okay, so when you are playing out of position or playing more minutes than you used to, sometimes that leads to mistakes, and mistakes, as we know, leads to goals. So again, that bodes well for the over. And like you said, Ian, this Cam Talbot has played a ton of games, and sooner or later, whether we're talking about teams or individuals, sooner or later that has to catch up. That's caught up to the Chicago Blackhawks. I mean, they've had virtually no time off between Stanley Cup runs and the opening of camp, and now, well, at least last year and the year before, we saw first-round exits out of them. I don't know if that led to it, but you certainly can't say that wasn't a factor. And now Cam Talbot, who has played a ton of minutes, we're starting to see maybe some cracks in his game. He's allowed 12 goals on his last 78 shots. That's a .650 save percentage. If you want to go under with a guy who's trending to save 65% of shots against teams that take 36 a game, be my guest on that. The Oilers at home have been always an over team. 6 of the last 7 games have gone over. From the Oilers, I tend to always go with teams at least in their first or maybe second game where they're trying to overcome injuries, because also with guys moving up and taking different roles, they also are kind of at a heightened awareness, and they give 100%, and there's not that relaxed factor. So I don't think it's going to hurt Edmonton now, but I think it will, in games maybe 3, 4, and 5, depending on how long these guys are out. I'm looking at the over on this at 5.5 at even money. To me, there's nothing that really points to the under for me. So we're gonna jump on that today.
Yeah, and Bill Peters is already talking to his team as well.
I was going to say, Ian, we talk about, getting a tongue lashing from your coach. I mean, well, Carolina is no stranger to that because Bill Peters had no problem calling out his team last year, probably not in a manner that either of his netminders would have liked, but that's both of these teams have coaches that are trying to crack the whip a little bit, and we didn't see Carolina make much movement after Bill Peters did it. We'll see how Edmonton responds.
Yeah, exactly. And even after the last game, Bill Peters, he's just saying, can we get to 3? He was really kind of, just saying, can we get to 3 in terms of goals scored? I mean, he's like, it's a race to 3 in this league. You've got to be able to get to 3 to get a point, if not 2 points. So, yeah, and he was basically saying, can we get to 3? So he's just basically challenging his offense here after getting held to 1 goal apiece in their last 2 games. Scott Darling's not been the issue. He's turned aside 44 of 48 shots here for this Carolina team in between the pipes. He's been very, very solid. But, Bill Peters is sick of seeing his goalie have to shoulder so much of the load for this team. It happened far too many times last year where Cam Ward had to be that good and the offense didn't get going. We'll see if the Lindholms and Victor Rasks and the guys of that ilk can get going a little bit here. Skinner. We'll see if any of those guys can get going here for the Carolina.
Got that.
Yeah.
Nobody got that, Ian.
No, exactly. The old Simpsons line, Principal Skinner from way back in the day. Great show. Carolina Edmonton, great game. This is going to be a good game to watch too, guys, because you got both teams probably looking to make a statement here because both teams are not happy with the way they're trending going into this particular hockey game. We've got Buffalo and Dana's hometown heroes, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, rotation number 69 and 70. We've got Buffalo, a -115 road favorite, total of 5.5 -115. And to Dana's point about the Skinner reference, I'm not scared to throw in a little movie reference, TV reference, do a little soliloquy or karaoke moment every now and then. Everybody that knows me I'd like to put just a little drop of entertainment into the show. Not too much. We don't want to make it a comedy act, but to keep it lively and keep it entertaining for sure. We got Buffalo and Vegas. Speaking of entertainment, Vegas Golden Knights are entertaining their hometown fans so far this season. Boy, oh boy, great start for them. And I'll tell you what, I thought they were in trouble against Boston the other night. I didn't trust Malcolm Subban whatsoever in between the pipes. It didn't matter. Still able to get the job done and beat a Boston Bruins team that's been very, very maddening. So figure out, can't put my finger on what's going on with them, but I know what's going on with Vegas. Gerard Gallant can coach, George McPhee can GM, and this team is buying in with a good, strong, hard 60-minute effort. Every single effort's there. Even against Detroit, there was sloppiness. We know that's the game Fleury got injured. I understand that, but the effort's never been in question with Vegas through their first 5 games of the season. They've been very, very good. They've given you that effort every single night. Now the question is Malcolm Subban again in between the pipes, obviously coming right back to him. I get maybe a little bit of a sense this could be a little bit of a troubling spot for Vegas just because can Subban, first NHL win with his new team here. Can he keep that up again one more time? And on the Buffalo side of the equation, Buffalo has had a wretched, miserable start to the season, but they finally get that first win. They go to 1-4, little confidence, a little momentum on their side coming into this game. I'm leaning Sabres here in this game just because it sets up well for them. Usually what I'd like to do in different leagues, different sports, teams that have a long winning streak, they lose that first game after the winning streak. I like to bet against that team right after that. Right after that first loss, they go on a 10-game winning streak. We're going to see one of those in hockey, maybe 2 of those this year, an 8+ game winning streak. When they lose that first game off the streak, that's an auto go against for me the next game. It's a deflator. The air's out of the balloon. It's like a letdown situation. Oh, the winning streak's over, and you just have that flat performance. We've seen that time and time again in the NHL. And conversely here with Buffalo, lose every game so far. They're struggling for confidence. They finally get a win on Sunday night against Anaheim, get in the win column for the first time. That brings positive momentum. That brings a little more energy to the practice rink. That gets everybody a little bit more fired up for game day now, getting that first win under their belt. So, yeah, I'm going to look to Buffalo here in this game. Sorry to the Vegas folks. I know there's a few of them watching probably, but I got to go with Buffalo here, -115 in the small road favorite role. We've got Dana involved in this Buffalo Vegas game. Of course, he's a hometown guy. How can he not get involved in a Golden Knights game? It would be uncouth of him not to. Dana, what do you think here of the Buffalo Sabres, the Las Vegas Golden Knights?
Well, I know people from Vegas are watching. I've brought all 3 of my followers with me to the show, so don't think I'm not contributing as much as I can. But I will tell you this, Ian. Practice yesterday was very upbeat, and there was no indication whatsoever that this team is kind of resting on their early success. And I agree with you. I mean, I was not and still not, I guess, a huge fan of Malcolm Subban. I need to see it over a course of time. I love the guys when I put an opinion out there about Subban, because I watched him, of course, as also a Bruins fan. I've watched him, a couple times in Boston where he couldn't finish games, and not that that's a big deal, but I think the bigger deal with Subban was the fact that not only was he the starting goaltender down in Providence, but then he went ahead and lost that job to Zane McIntyre, and he was the backup in Providence for a long time, and I just never really felt like this guy was ready to take the next step. I know it's a nice story that he stepped up against his old team, and it was the storybook ending, and how strange is it that that's the way things ended up, but good for him. Seems like a good kid, and I know George McPhee has a ton of confidence in him. I still have questions as to why it is that Calvin Pickard was let go. I still think that that's an internal issue. I don't buy that it had anything to do with his play. Guys were saying, well, he wasn't going post to post quick enough, and whatever. That's BS, honestly, because he looked fine by all accounts in his Marlies debut, and he looked fine in the preseason as well. And again, if we were taking statistics and measuring guys and whether or not they're going to have success, Marc-Andre Fleury wouldn't be here because he wasn't that great in the preseason either. I love how the Knights have played defensively, though. I think all 3 of their pairings played well. I think they're playing a disciplined style of hockey. They are really making sure that they are taking the pressure off their goaltender. The only thing that I have, kind of an issue with is, and hopefully that's getting better, is finishing in the third period. We saw against Arizona where Arizona completely dominated despite losing the game in the third period. Detroit's speed was completely on display, and Detroit to me isn't one of the faster teams in the league. And I think for Vegas, the schedule has fallen just right for them to get off a good start. But hey, when we talk about the Sabres, I mean, do we think speed here? No, and sometimes I think not only is there not any speed, I don't think that they're very disciplined at times. I mean, they can go on a stretch where they find themselves in the box quite a bit. I don't know if I am completely confident back into Robin Leonard. And I also expect to have Vadim Shipachyov getting more minutes. I mean, he had his first goal the other night, but only played 10 minutes, didn't get any power play time whatsoever. They hit him on a line with Tuck and Leipzig, and I think he's going to become more of a prominent member of this team. I think he's got a ton of talent, and every time I kind of go back and watch games, I kind of say, wow, I can see what George McPhee was thinking, and I can see why they gave him $4.5 million. I think it's just going to take a little bit of time for him, because even aside from what he's got going on the ice, he's got a ton of things going on off the ice. But when he gets everything together and he finds himself on that top line, maybe with Marchessault or with Riley Smith, depending on how it works out, I mean, I think he's going to be a major player with this team. I do think tonight they're going to let him loose a little bit. I do think he's going to get more some power play time tonight. And why not? I'm gonna ride the streak, and I'm gonna take Vegas at plus money on home ice. And let's not forget, and let's not put proper emphasis on a road team from the East going to the West. And I witnessed it firsthand. I watched the Bruins in Arizona Saturday night play a terrific game. And then like almost magic, the second game the next night in Vegas, they were non-existent. I mean, this team was not the same team I just saw 24 hours ago. So there could be a fatigue factor involved in there as well. I'm willing to take the Vegas Knights plus with the small plus money at Pinnacle.
All right, there we go. Head-to-head matchup, Dana and me. We're going head-to-head. We got to put the Dukes up here. There we go. Buffalo for me, Vegas for Dana in that late night cap. I'll tell you what's going to be interesting to watch moving forward. We saw Detroit lose, and I wanted to bring this up. Detroit lost 3-2 to Tampa Bay last night. They were coming home from that final game of a road trip, and guess where it was? In Las Vegas. I'm interested. That's when you're playing Las Vegas on the final game of your road trip. and that's the last game before you head home. I'm going to wonder if that's a bet against spot the rest of the season for a lot of these teams. Going to be interesting to monitor when you wrap up that road trip with Vegas and then you come home. That could be a spot you want to bet against teams in. You really could. And we saw that with Detroit last night in going down to defeat against the Tampa Bay Lightning by a score of 3-2 in that one. So there's the Buffalo-Vegas game. We got Montreal-San Jose. No line, although we just saw a line creep up there in Bookmaker/Chris a second ago. Rotation 71-72. San Jose -125, home favorite. Total of 5 in this game, shaded to -135. Hey, you're not seeing a boatload of 5s with totals right now, not with scoring up, penalties up, the whole bit so far, but you're seeing that with Montreal, San Jose, and rightfully so. I mean, Montreal still an offensively challenged team. They did get it going against Toronto, but Toronto's roping any team right now into an up and down, back and forth pinball shootout type of thing, and Montreal got involved with one in that game. This is going to be a clear pass for me. I don't want either part of these teams. San Jose is a bet against mostly for me right now, which I said before the season. Same goes with Montreal. Maybe a decent spot for Montreal just because they're starting this road trip. But certainly it's going to be a situation for me where it's two teams I'm not enamored with. I'm going to stay away from. And this was a game that I don't think anyone else had an opinion on. No, they did not. So a game definitely I'm staying away from. Not a big fan of the Habs or the Sharks. And that's going to lead us to best bets, which went perfect 4-0 on Saturday. That brings our season record, guys, with best bets to 13-3. Big kudos, big props to Alex, to Dana, to Andrew, everyone doing a magnificent job so far with best bets to get us to that 13-3 record so far this season. And here we're going to find out what we all got on tap for this loaded Tuesday card. Let's start with Dana this time. We'll go right to left. Dana, what are you looking at for best bets on Tuesday?
Well, I fear that we are not going to have an undefeated record tonight because I'm going to go right back to the Washington Capitals. I think you're going to get a pretty good price on this. We do see some money coming in on Toronto, and as we've been in the show, the favorite line has dropped. They're now at -$1.35. We started out at $1.37 to start the game. I just think that you're going to get an effort out of the Washington Capitals that is going to be reminiscent of what they did previous to the Philadelphia Flyers game. Yes, Toronto has an incredible depth, and especially offensive depth, but I still think that Washington will have plenty of opportunities. I think Washington, somewhat as well as most teams in this league, can match them with their offensive depth. And I think that they'll be real focused to come back after that game against the Flyers. So we're going to go Washington -$1.35.
All right, Washington Capitals, best bet for Dana. And by the way, apologies to people in the chat wondering where I am. I'm not in the chat today. Chat's had some difficulties. The chat box did not load on the YouTube when I brought it up for me. Tried it a couple times, didn't go through. So unfortunately, couldn't see anybody's questions or comments. But I'll be back in the chat room for Thursday's show without a doubt. And I'll be looking at questions and comments from all our great viewers that join us bright and early every morning here for the NHL Ice Guys. So Washington is Dana's best bet. Andrew, you're next up. What are you looking at? Best bet for Tuesday.
Well, I hate to do this usually, but just a quick point to add. I saw someone in the comment section mention it, so I just have to quickly say I know my Habs have had terrible luck in San Jose. They haven't done well out there. They don't really do well in the first game of their West Coast road trips. So depending on what kind of odds you can get, I would look to bet San Jose and then fade against my Montreal Canadiens. But for my best bet of the day, I'm going to go right back to the Ottawa Senators on the puck line, +165. I think they took care of business in the West Coast. I think they now have a West Coast team coming to them. They're playing at home. Erik Karlsson is back. This is a team that's firing on all cylinders. Not only are they scoring, but they're just getting lots of shots. And who else but the Craig Anderson between the pipes and taking care of business. Back-to-back shutouts for him in the past 2 games. I think that success just continues. And I'm looking to keep on riding with the Ottawa Senators guys. The -1.5, +165 tonight.
Yeah, great price. I always like that. I mean, the puck line -1.5. That's the great thing. If you want to lay a goal and a half, you're usually going to get a great price. +165. That is indeed a good price there on the Ottawa Senators to lay the smackdown on the bottom feeding and now injury-plagued Vancouver Canucks. That's not a very good combination now, is it? All right, Alex B. Smith, your best bet for tonight.
Yeah, one note I just shared on the chat room about that Montreal San Jose game. Carey Price 2-6-1 with a 2.96 goals against in 9 starts against San Jose. So might want to look at the Sharks there. But my best bet tonight is on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Like I said, I'm stunned at this price, and it hasn't gone up yet. It's still around, pick 'em or even money. I thought for sure there would be a $1.30, $1.40 favorite. This Rangers team is absolutely abysmal, and both teams really need a win tonight. And I think Pittsburgh's got more of their things together. Stuff in order right now. So I look at Pittsburgh to get the win tonight.
Yeah, translation, Alex is trying to say they don't have their shit together. That's basically I'll just put it out, since I'm the potty mouth of the group, the R-rated. They get the R rating out when I'm on an SBR show. And thanks to SBR, too, for letting us use a little swear, go to the swear jar and deposit something into it every now and then. I appreciate that, because this is always one of those forums where I can really rant, get something off my chest, and I feel a lot better, like a weight's off my shoulders when I do that. So thank you to SBR for giving us this platform and doing this show and all the other shows. We can rant and rave when we want to. I know Jeff Nadu, BMOC, a good friend of mine who's on everywhere on this channel, he uses the rant and rave session quite a bit on his shows. So it's always something I enjoy doing when I feel that there's something that's bothering me and pissing me off in the sports world. And I definitely take that opportunity. We got Pittsburgh for Alex as his best bet, which brings us to me with my best bet for the show. And we're going to go back to the Florida-Philadelphia over 5.5 minus 120. That will be my best bet for the show. Look, the Panthers, to me, offensively, a little bit of an undervalued, underrated commodity. How about the way Evgeny Dadonov has played for this Florida Panthers team? 5 points already for him in his first 4 games with this team. Huberdeau's gotten off to a flying start. Nick Bukestad, if he stays healthy, he's a very good center iceman for this Florida team. He's got 4 points already. This is a team that's putting the puck in the net. They're also giving some up. I mean, Roberto Luongo, as Don Cherry calls him, is the guy that, he's getting older as he goes along. Can he maintain a good semblance of play in net? It's been up and down a little bit for Florida, not only in goal, but defensively so far as well. 4-0 to the over. Philadelphia, as I mentioned, I like what they're doing offensively. You've got a lot of guys that are in good form for them in terms of scoring goals and producing on the score sheet. The likes of Sean Couturier, the likes of Wayne Simmons, the likes of Claude Giroux, Voracek, Filppula, Jordan Wheel even scored a goal or two. Nolan Patrick against Nashville finally got his first NHL goal. So there's a lot to like with the Flyers offensively, but on the back end they struggle a little bit. It's not a great blue line by any stretch, and of course Brian Elliott sometimes a little bit feast or famine in net. So let's go Florida, Philadelphia over 5.5 minus 120 for my best bet for the Ice Guys for this Tuesday, October 17th card. Guys, that's a wrap. That's going to do it for our Tuesday show. We'll be back Thursday morning here in this same time, same channel, SBR, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central, 6 a.m. Pacific time. I leave it to the rest of you to figure out any other time zone. I can't do China. I can't do Australia.
3 a.m. Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Hawaii is, exactly. 4 a.m. out there. So anyone on the island that are big hockey nuts in Hawaii and Honolulu and Maui and all that, we really do appreciate you guys, even more than Dana here. 4 a.m. you'd be up watching us. It's unbelievable. We love Dana for doing it here at 6 a.m. Thanks again to everybody for tuning in. Keep the questions coming, the comments coming. We appreciate it. We'll be back Thursday morning with another edition of the Ice Guys. For Dana Lane, for Andrew McInnis, for Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Enjoy the Tuesday night hockey card. We'll be back at you on Thursday.